Bom dia a todos, como está? Tudo bem? Então, eu vou começar a falar português contigo e depois falar inglês. Talvez estejas a pensar como é o meu português depois de quase 2 anos. Então, quando eu fiz o meu último vídeo, eu morava em Portugal há 7 meses e agora eu falo um pouco mais do que antes. E também acho que eu penso e falo mais rápida também. Como eu aprendo português? E agora eu tenho um tutor que eu falo com ela 2 vezes por semana, às vezes 3 vezes por semana também. Nós falamos sobre muitos tópicos e, então eu tenho um problema com preposições. Eu detesto. E muitas vezes eu esqueci-me usar preposições. Não é um problema porque essa pessoa percebe-me, mas eu não gosto de usar preposições. Então, quando nós falamos sobre alguma coisa, a minha tutora é tutora? Tutor? Essa pessoa é uma mulher. Então, nós falamos sobre muitos tópicos e quando eu não uso preposições, ela vai dar-me, exemplos por preposições e nós praticamos. Então, eu gosto de ler também. Eu leio muitos livros para crianças e também eu comprei um livro com a autora americana Colleen Hoover. Talvez tu saibas, mas não sei. E também quando eu vou a quaisquer lojas, a Câmara, o Centro de Saúde, eu consigo falar português. Então, eu não sou fluente e quando eu conheço alguém e eu sei essa pessoa pode falar inglês e português, eu vou falar inglês com ela. É mais fácil para mim. Mas sim, às vezes eu conheço alguém que fala ambos, mas talvez essa pessoa prefere, eu sei conjuntivo, mas às vezes eu não uso o conjuntivo, mas tu compreende-me. Às vezes essa pessoa prefere falar português comigo porque é mais fácil para ele e boa, eu percebo. Mas sim, é isso. Alright, let's get to English because it's far easier speaking English. As I was saying, maybe you are wondering how my Portuguese is after 2 years, and maybe this will be a good indicator of where you will likely be if you were to study Portuguese like I do. I try to study Portuguese about 2 to 3 times a week, and I've been doing this consistently, I guess, for the past year. Even though I've been living here for 2 years, and I did start studying Portuguese pretty much right when I moved here. I did take about 6 months off because I was doing like an intensive class, which honestly, the idea of an intensive class sounds great and all, but it moves so quickly that I ended up forgetting nearly everything that I learned the previous week because you would learn a new subject and then you're learning all this vocabulary when you haven't really grasped the previous thing that you had just learned the prior day or the prior week. So I found actually the first 6 months I was doing all these intensive courses, but I wasn't really speaking a lot. I would forget a lot. And although my tutor at that time, I was actually going through a school, but I was doing a single individualized class. So it was just myself and the tutor, the professor. I found myself just only speaking English, and she would try to get me to speak Portuguese, even though I was learning it. She's like, I know you know this stuff. We went over this. We need to start practicing you speaking Portuguese. And I was just so shy. I really didn't feel comfortable speaking the language because honestly, it's not a very easy language to speak. So I didn't speak for 6 months, really. Sure, a couple of sentences here, like a very short response here, and that's actually can be very common in the very early stages of when you're learning any language. You're just shy, and I still am shy after 2 years. So anyway, I took that 6 months of intensive courses that I didn't really speak a lot in, and then after that, she said that I was at an A2 level, which, hey guys, sorry, I'm editing my video right now, and I'm like What was I talking about? When I was telling you guys I wasn't really speaking a lot, I actually wasn't speaking a lot during the class. But when I was out inside the real world, right, outside of class, I would always practice my Portuguese, whatever I did learn. So I did know how to order food at the restaurants. I know how to go grocery shopping. Like whenever I was able to use my Portuguese, I did. So I just didn't feel comfortable speaking Portuguese in the classroom because I knew the teacher spoke English. So I felt like it was easier to explain whatever I needed, and whatever I had questions about, I would ask her in English and she would respond back in English. But I did try to use whatever knowledge of Portuguese I knew, I would use it. So I just wanted to clarify that. I really didn't think I was. But after that, I was just like, you know what? I'm going to take the next 6 months off because I feel like I'm just not really learning anything. And to spend that much money not feeling like you learned anything is hard to grasp. So I took the next 6 months off to try to do like a self-study, like I was doing practice Portuguese and I was doing memories, but I really wasn't doing it in a very consistent manner. I was just honestly, and this is where the difficulties is living here in Portugal, especially in college, there are just so many people that speak English far better than how my Portuguese was going, and I just felt more comfortable speaking English and I was able to get around in English. And don't get me wrong, I did speak a lot of Portuguese too during that time. But if I came across a person that I know could speak better English than I could in Portuguese, I'm going to go English route. I'm sorry, I know. Eu preciso praticar mais, mas é mais fácil para falar inglês. Okay. Então, so fast forward to last summer. Last summer was when I met my my current tutor. And I told myself, like, look, my kids are learning far faster than I am and I need to keep up with them because I don't want to get to the point where, you know, we're only speaking English at home, which there's nothing wrong with it. But I feel like I'm all about integration and wanting to speak the language and wanting to be like a local. And I was just not doing what I was telling myself I wanted to be. So I told myself last summer, I have to do this. I have to learn Portuguese. Otherwise, I will never learn Portuguese. So last summer was when I met my tutor and I started taking private lessons with her, and I was doing it about once to twice a week at that time. And we were doing it very consistently. Like every week I would have 1 to 3 lessons with her for an hour, and we would go over everything, the A2 level. Now I think I'm at a B1 level, and we would just go through so many different topics. And you know, it was great because for a short time she was recording our whole entire session, so I would then have something to reference if I had questions about whatever we learned. And she would send me over all of the worksheets that we worked on. So we were using all these different textbooks, Portuguese textbooks, and we would go over it. We would read articles and we would talk about the articles. She really worked on my listening skills because that was my biggest problem. And even to this day is a problem. Like not so much when I'm talking to a Portuguese person, I pretty much understand the majority of what they're saying. But when I'm watching TV shows or watching movies, because it is very hard to understand Portuguese. I don't know, like movies are, like I understand probably like a good 60% of what they're saying in movies, or at least understand the context of the movie. If I have the subtitles, I understand like 90% of it. Once there is a show that doesn't have subtitles, which actually there are quite a bit, that is when I start getting like, I have to really pay attention. Otherwise I'll totally be lost in what's going on. So that is something I'm still working on and she's working on with me. And I mean, that's really how my Portuguese is now after almost 2 years. So if you're looking for advice I can give to you, I would say my biggest advice is, 1, you really have to be consistent with learning any language, and especially Portuguese. 2, try to use Portuguese as much as you can. Like now, whenever we go out, I only speak Portuguese, unless I know a situation, like my butcher. I know my butcher speaks English. And you know, at this point, we just have a relationship where we speak English, and I'm completely content with that. But when we go out, between my husband and I'm always speaking Portuguese, especially at the restaurants or wherever I feel confident speaking Portuguese, I will speak Portuguese. And that's what kind of builds your confidence level. And you find that you are getting better and better when the person tells you like, oh, you know, that you speak really good Portuguese, or they don't try to change over to English. That is actually when you know you have reached a certain level, is when they know that you're able to understand what they're saying and able to communicate, and they don't have to say, oh, don't worry, I speak English, and then, you know, change over to English. So kudos to you if you can get to that point. That's what you should strive for initially. And what else? Read a lot. Like I was telling you, I had purchased a lot of kid books initially, and I would go through and read it. One, I bought a lot of them for my children, but then as I was reading it, I realized I was picking up so many different words than just going through, like other applications that I just thought that I was going to learn off of, and I really didn't. Once you start seeing the word over and over and over again, which books tend to do that to you, you will learn that word quicker and quicker because you see that word often. And yeah, I mean, those are really my biggest advice to you, is read and try to, watch shows if you can. Believe me, that's something that I'm still trying to get the hang of, because I just am not at that level as far as listening wise, and try to speak as much as you can. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video. I hope I didn't make a complete fool out of myself, because I feel like I did, and I might not upload this, but if I do upload it, congratulations, because now you get to hear me speak Portuguese. Anyway, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and I will see you next time. Ciao!